I think I never thought I would be a filmmaker because I've never had really dreams in my life. I think I have lived most of the time in the present moment, being happy with what I'm doing. And the happiest were the first 14 years when I lived in a little village near the Baltic Sea in Estonia, and I was very happy without any dreams or goals. But there were little instances, little prophecies in this stage of my life, because my father used to call me in Estonian operator kõps, a camera person kõps. It was a children's animation film. Why he called me like that, I have no idea. And I think in some ways when I actually had already become a filmmaker, then I remembered this, that Dad called me that. So there was a little sign in the childhood. But I've always loved the magic of film, because that is very powerful. And that impression I got from going to the cinema for the first time as a little girl. There was a village hall, and the whole village was there, and then the lights went down, and then I was actually watching a different reality. And I think that was magic. It was such a big surprise, because I must have lived totally into that experience of what I saw on the screen, and never come across anything like that, anything as powerful as that. And then, of course, I always wanted to go and see films, because they were not really, I couldn't see films every day. They were big events. And then there was even a time at the secondary school when I was already in Tallinn studying at the secondary school, that I picked up an advert where they were asking for young people to come and join a film club, which would actually prepare people to go to Moscow Film Institute. And there were 12 people were chosen, and there were 10 boys and 2 girls, and I did go to that club, but somehow I didn't have confidence to go to the film school. I wasn't sure that I actually was up to it. And then it so happened that when I came to live in England, I also thought of going to study film, but it was also, there were things which, the door was closed. And the door was open when I had given birth to our first child, Kaja, and I went to see a film by Jane Campion, An Angel at My Table. And it was a film about a woman artist, about Janet Frame. And it was about all these big doubts whether you are good enough. And somehow seeing that, I was in tears, and I thought maybe I should really give it a try. And then I went to the film school next day. I drove to Beaconsfield, and I met my teacher, who was going to be a great teacher of mine, Herb de Joya, who encouraged me. And also Colin Young was also there at that time when I entered the film school, and that's how it happened. I spent 3 years at the National Film School in Beaconsfield, and I was in the documentary department, a very small department, 4 people from different countries of the world. And we had to do everything ourselves. We had to shoot, we had to do sound, we had to edit, and we had to distribute, think about it at least. And these were very happy years, because I realized that my teacher, Herb de Joya, was one of the pioneers of cinema verite and observational filmmaking. And it somehow then, at that time, it clicked. I didn't think consciously about it, but I understood that I had been observing life all my life from childhood, because that's how we start. We learn about things by observing what happens around us. And so we basically had to do the same thing at film school. So I was very happy there for 3 years. we had to shoot 2 films at film school. One was the film we did after the first year, and then we had to shoot a graduation film. And because I had so much doubt in me, still thinking whether am I able to make films, because it was such a big thing for me. Being filmmaker was something so special that I still thought maybe I cannot do it. So I thought that every little exercise or every film I had to do, I was sort of thinking, if I can't do it, maybe I stop and leave the school. But fortunately I didn't stop, because I had enough confidence to carry on. And when I was already thinking about the graduation film, I knew I wanted to make it about Estonia, about the country where I grew up, because another half of my life I've been living in England, and another half of my life I'm in Estonia. I have 2 homes. So I went to Estonia, and it was very clear, although I had done all the training as a camera person and sound person and editor, I wanted to work with a professional cameraman, and we have also a camera department at the film school. And I knew I wanted to work with a cameraman. And I asked my Finnish fellow student, Pentti Keskimäki, to be the cameraman for my film, because I knew, being Finnish, because Estonian and Finnish are the same, they are the same people, basically. We understand each other's language, and our mentality and outlook on the world is very similar. I knew that he would feel at home straight away, although he'd never been to Estonia. And I wanted to express something which is part of me. I was born in Estonia. I think it means something, the language you speak in. And I wanted to convey it in some way. I think I didn't quite know what I'm going to achieve, but I've never thought of the films, what I'm going to achieve, or what's the film at the very end. I go into the process with certain confidence that the place I choose and the people I choose will deliver. What they deliver is it's very hard to put into words, but I actually have thought about it recently, because people have asked me, and you don't think about these things when you're making films, and you should never think about it. But I think there is actually similarity with a sculptor, because when a sculptor goes and chooses a rock for the sculpture, he or she has to understand what's inside that rock. And I know actually Michelangelo was saying that I have to find the angel in the rock. And when sculptors go to find the rock, it's a very long process. How can you explain it? And I have now understood that when I choose the people and the places, it's a little bit like being a sculptor who has to believe in that rock, that it will deliver. And you have to have complete trust that it will deliver, even if no one else believes in it. And I think that is actually the key, the way I make it, that I believe in these places, and it's a long process. And I think all my films are about this, that I can't tell you how I do it, but I have to know inside me, and I have to have confidence and trust. And then it's like a sculptor, it's very similar. And I think all this is true about all my films, is that you actually have to work with the material. And you can't push your will on it, because rock has different, you have to really follow the rock. You have to follow your people, because they are not who you are. They are different. So you have to go with the flow and let go of your own will, and just surrender your will and be and see and believe. And then something in this being together, something happens if you really are together and you're not pushing other people and they're not pushing you. You have this, it's an amazing thing. I think that's why I'm so excited about when in the process of filmmaking, because something in this coming together is so special that I think I wouldn't talk about it in words, but it's very, very special. Narrow is the Gate is a very special film for me because I had decided, I was trying after the film school to work in television as a documentary director. And I was almost successful many times. I was almost there. Even I was paid once by the BBC to make a film. And I'm so grateful that somehow it didn't happen. Now, on hindsight, I'm very grateful for that. And then I thought I decided that I'm not going to be making films because there are so many people who are desperately wanting to make films. And it's so competitive and the world doesn't need any more films. And I decided to stop. But I had a producer who believed in me and had decided that I will go and be a tutor at a film seminar, East Meets West. There were Eastern European filmmakers and Western European filmmakers who were trained how to get a commission from a commissioning editor. And I am this bridge between East and West. I've lived in Eastern Europe and I've lived in Western Europe, so I understand both mentalities. And I've been affected by different film schools, film traditions. And so I had to work there. But I had actually decided that I'm not going to make films, and I thought this is my last time I work there with filmmakers. And I enjoyed being the tutor because I helped the filmmakers from Eastern Europe with the scripts, giving them confidence. And I thought this is the last time I work with filmmakers. Not even that I thought that it's the end of the story, but I thought, I let go. And then I had somebody approached me from Canada, producer, commissioning editor of documentaries in Quebec. And he came up to me and he said he would like me to make a film. And he said, I'd like to work with you. And I said, I'm not making any more films. And next day he came up to me again and he said, I want to work with you. And then I really was, I remember I couldn't sleep and I thought, why does he want to make films with me? Because there were all these people who were eager to get a commission. It's a big marketplace. So I asked him on the third day, I said, why do you make films with me? And he said, because you're free. And I said, I'm free because I don't need to make any more films. But somehow I'm very grateful to this person, Paul Lapointe from Canada, because he said, you have to make a film you really want to make, what you love, so choose a subject. And then I started choosing, I started thinking about what sort of film I should make. And I think for me, politics and, real life is very, very interesting because I have been very lucky to see the change in Eastern Europe when the Berlin Wall collapsed and Europe became one. Because I lived behind the Iron Curtain for 28 years. And then life changed suddenly. Now there's no wall in Europe. And I actually wanted to somehow understand what has been going on in Europe when the war broke out in the Balkans. Because the Soviet Union was lots of circumstances that there was killing, of course, in Georgia, there was killing in Lithuania, there was killing in Central Asian republics. But Estonia was one of these very lucky countries where there were no victims. And a small nation of 1.3 million actually got free from Soviet Russia without any victims. And I was part of that process. I witnessed it because I also studied history in London University when I came. Before the film school, I studied history. And then I was in this process of change, and I was asked to be the director of Estonian Information Bureau. And we were setting up Estonian embassy, which existed before the war. So I was very much involved in this change, and it excited me. That was after the film school. And no, actually, it was before the film school. Yes, Eastern Europe became free before the film school. And then when I was a graduate of a film school, and I was thinking about what sort of place I want to film in, where do I want to go? And then the war in the Balkans started. And I was so upset about it because it was really happening. There was the siege of Sarajevo, basically, next door to England. And there was one war after another in the Balkans. And I really wanted to go and see why people don't understand that it doesn't lead you anywhere. The war doesn't take you anywhere. It has been happening all over the world, centuries and centuries. So I sort of went there in some way because I witnessed a peaceful change of the society. Not a violent one, peaceful transition. And then I actually saw that there was a very violent transition. And I went there in some ways just to witness it and make maybe a document. I think I didn't quite know what will happen. I wanted to show that it's possible to have reconciliation also in the Balkans. And that's what took me there. It's very strange to talk about this filmmaking now and in retrospect, because what's really the best thing is that when you go, you don't know what is going to happen. And I think if we knew what's going to happen, there wouldn't be any films. There's no point to make films if you know what you're going to achieve. And so when I went to Kosovo, I think I was so, in some ways, I think if I'd known how difficult it's going to be, I wouldn't have gone there. And of course I didn't know what would happen. But what I knew, I always know what I don't want. And what I didn't want was to get this dualistic worldview that there are enemies and us and them, and that one lot of people is very different from us. And they are the enemies, and they are the baddies, and they are the goodies. Because I'd seen so many films that it almost made me sick. Because it's so unreal. Our common instinct really tells us that us as human beings, we are very similar. And when you see one side being portrayed by brainwashing and the way we are looking at the world, that it is the separation of different people and different, that there's always this fight between good and evil. I don't believe in it. And so I went not to make a film about this, us and them. And so I actually started looking for my rock, for the place. And I went the first time, I went for 6 weeks. I knew I'm not going to. I took my camera, I got my PD100, my Sony PD100, which is my trusted friend. I still have it. And I traveled through Kosovo for 2 months, filming everything. And I went to absolutely every possible, impossible place, in dangerous places and different places. I was with the soldiers in almost all the army bases, and with UN workers, with Albanians, with Serbs. And everybody was, I couldn't see a film. I couldn't see a film. Everybody wanted to be in the film. And that is one thing. You should never go for the people who really want to be filmed, because that's a sign of caution. One should be very aware of it, that don't go for these people who want to stand in front of the camera. But I almost didn't know why I couldn't make films with them. But I knew they were the wrong rocks. And And then I came back and I watched all this material, about 20 tapes I'd filmed. And I watched and watched it, and I watched it, and then I saw this interview with a monk. His name was Macmillan, and somehow in that interview I saw something in his eyes, something, and what he also said. I felt, yes, I'd like to film him, because that's it. I found that person. And so next year I went back and I met him, and he said he was so ill that he was dying and I couldn't make a film. But it was already part of the process. I was somehow there as he was in the monastery. I decided to stay there, and a week later the main character, Theodora, found me. I hadn't seen her a year ago. I was living there in the it's actually the convent. The Serbs call it a monastery. It was a convent. I'd never seen her, although she was there. And then one morning I saw the light was very beautiful. It was 5 a.m. I woke up early, started filming the arch, and then went back later, a few hours later, filmed again. And then this old woman, actually, with a stick, she started shooting me. And she really found me. And I knew she was right. And she was right, because she was the only person who told the truth. And she's not a perfect person. I've been criticized that, she's not a hero. How we usually, people want to have these heroes on a pedestal so that we look up to them. No, she was a very ordinary woman. But there was something special in her. We recognized each other, that we had to do a job. So we did a job. And when I finished, I knew the film was ahead of me. I knew that. I always feel it, because the camera is faster than a human eye. Camera catches everything. And so it takes a long time to really realize what it captures. So I think I'm still digesting it. And in that way, viewers are very useful, because they tell what they see, so they help me as well. So we made the film with Theodora. That was Narrow is the Gate. This is the Days. It has been the most difficult film for me, and the most rewarding one, because it has also revealed who I am myself and what filmmaking is about. And I think I'm only halfway there, trying to understand it. Because when I went back, I wanted to make a film about a monk whom I trusted. And I asked him as well, "Do you trust me?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Then we can do it. Let's start." And I made it with him because he didn't have hatred. He didn't divide the world into two opposing camps. He didn't see other peoples as other people who are responsible for the violence, and the guilty ones and the victims. He somehow saw everything as one. I didn't know it at the time, I think. But being there, filming, I learned about it, that's how he looks at the world. So I needed to respond to that. And I started seeing also that the value of life is in the simplicity of it. It's in the simplest things in life. What we do, how we prepare food, how we look after each other, and that there isn't very much happening in our lives. It isn't just high peaks all the time. Most of the time, it's mundane work, getting up and thinking what I'm going to do today, if we don't have a routine. So I actually needed to find the beauty in the most ordinary. which of course has always interested me. And it is very hard to make a film about very ordinary things because the viewers are very spoilt now with peaks, conflicts. And also, monks' life is very, very unemotional. They can't live with emotions. Good monks, wise monks, don't have emotions. They have to go beyond emotion. And it's very hard to make a film without emotion because the filmmaking is about emotions. So that was very difficult. And also what was very, very difficult was to see how you make a film without any story. Because people really expect a story. But I in some ways, I saw a story there. And for me, there's a story. It's a circle of life. Things happen all the time. Eternally, things are happening. The same things. Nothing has changed. And I think I got into that rhythm there. It was a long process and I was barred many times. I was asked not to come back. I couldn't get permission from church authorities. Sometimes my monk I was filming left, so I had nobody to film. So it was a long process. I almost had to accept this routine. And then somehow it's done now and I'm digesting it. After I had made Narrows the Gate in Kosovo, I thought that life in Estonia was quite positive because although we have a conflict we've had conflicts with different occupiers throughout centuries. It's a violent place in the world, a small plot of land which every neighbor has wanted to come and occupy. It's still, life is quite peaceful, probably because it's a Nordic country, it's the north and nature is hard. But I saw that there is actually so much hope in this country which has, where people have been able to forgive and carry on with life as it comes, not thinking, not hanging on to the past, just live in the present moment. And so I thought I will go and make a film on the border between Estonia and England, Estonia and Russia. And again, I started looking for the character. And it was very hard. I was looking for the character over a year with pauses. Because people were acting some sort of part. I think on the border, life on the border, where you have the border has been also a border of the conflict. Everybody is very much stuck into their role. So it's very hard to get out of that role. And because I don't want to film these sort of roles, these divisions, part of me is expecting to have this transcendence of this conflict and all these roles. I couldn't find the character. And in some ways, I found this artist, because artists have the ability to go beyond. They're not just dealing with everyday life. They transcend the reality, and I don't know how to explain it. But anyway, I started filming this artist, and his wife helped me to make the film because they were a unit. So it turned out to be a film about man and woman from man's point of view and about woman's point of view and their roles. And they really were helping each other. They were a unit, although he denied it vehemently. After the wife died, he actually says now he accepts it now that they were a unit. So I kept on saying, you are the branches of the same tree. No, we're a different tree. But So it turned, because I couldn't go into politics in a way, because it's uninteresting almost, because if people really see themselves only as part of a certain national group or a certain political party, it's boring for me, because life is much more complex. So then I saw this male-female searching of the balance was very interesting for me, and how actually an artist creates. It helped me to find out what I'm doing myself. And actually the result of this film, again, you see, I always feel that films are teaching me things. I have learned from this film that we are androgynous. We have both female and male side in us. And we really, for perfect balance, we need to use both sides. And sometimes when we have the right partner, then we can really balance each other very well. And it is not that it always is that the man is a male part and a woman is a female part. It's this very interesting, subtle interplay of two sides. I think these two, where the man was thinking that he had a very strong particular role to play as a man, how much he really also depended on a woman. And I think in that way it is probably most understandable film, because it's about human relationships. Because it's not only a relationship about man and a woman. Like I believe in this androgynous unit. It's like in Taoism, it is yin and yang, and we really at one point we are more yin, another part we are more yang. So that was the film, which was a little relaxation for me before going back to Kosovo and making This Is the Day. This Is the Day is still changing me, because I realize that if we don't live life fully in the present moment, whatever you do, could be washing dishes all day. It's not my idea. I've read it about Buddhist monks who say that you actually are in the process of washing dishes or doing gardening or speaking to you now. Then you don't think about the future. So that's it. So there is no future.